Hi everyone, and welcome to this virtual open house with Miami Dade College. Today I'm going to be talking about how to choose a career using some of our resources that we have here in the state of Florida, which is Florida Choices. So let me introduce myself. My name is Marquis. I am a senior academic advisor at Miami Dade College at the Hialeah campus. We have a few campuses, and so my home campus is here in Hialeah. So first, let me begin by talking about why it's important to choose a particular career. First, you kind of want to think about what you're getting into now while you're in high school because you don't want to waste your time when you're in college. When you get to college, you're going to have lots of different ideas about um, what you want to do and what you like to do and what your friends are doing and what your family wants from you. And it's really important that you think about that now so you don't waste your time or your money on classes. So first things first, what you want to ask yourself is, what do you like to do? What do you do on your spare time? One time I asked a student this question because he wasn't sure what major to pick, and so I asked him, what do you like to do? And he said, I like to go to the movies, but I don't see how that's relevant to this picking a major. And so I said, well, I think that's very relevant because you like to be inside, you like to watch something that's artistic, you like quiet time, and that's something that you can really look for in a career. And so those sorts of things can kind of guide you. So for example, me, my hobbies that I like to do is I like to be outside. I like to go kayaking, I like to go hiking. So if I'm thinking about a potential career, I'm going to want to pick something that caters to the things that I like. And so if you start to think about that now, it helps you sort of focus in on what to take as far as classes and interests. And the next thing you want to ask yourself is, what are you good at? A lot of people in the Miami area want to go into the medical field, and that makes sense. It makes a lot of money, there's a lot of openings, and there's high demand right now. However, not everybody is necessarily good at math or science, so it's really important that you pay attention to what you're good at. For me, for example, I like to use myself as an example because I'm done with college and I'm in a career now. For me, what I am particularly good at is psychology and learning about people and talking about people and sort of gauging what's good for someone. And so, what's really helpful for me is following that. If I was not good at psychology, well, then that might not be a very good career for me. Same thing with you. If you are interested in the medical field, first you want to think, am I good at math and science? And if the answer is yes, then go for it. But if it's not, you want to think about that long and hard because you're going to be doing those classes from here until you are in your profession. Let's see. The next question that I have students ask themselves is, what do you see for yourself? This is a really important question because a lot of times people sort of just have this idea in their head about what kind of life they're going to have, but they don't really think about connecting the dots from when they start college to when they're actually in their dream life. So I know someone in particular, one of the things that he saw for himself in a successful life was, I'm wearing a suit, I'm driving a power car, and I am a higher up exec in whatever kind of company. And that was his definition of success. However, he is working in higher education. In higher education, you don't make lots of money and you don't wear suits typically and you don't drive nice cars because that higher education is a serving career. And so he was really frustrated, even though he was moving up in his career, he was really frustrated that he hadn't met those goals that he expected for himself. If he had known that this was very important to him to reach that in his life, he may have chosen a different track when he was in college, one that could have led to power suits and power cars and fancy titles. So if it's really important to you that you do that, take a good look at the career that you're getting into and how much money you could potentially make. If you're going to be working 9 to 5, or if you're going to be working outdoors, or if you're going to have a flexible schedule. These are all very important questions that nobody really tells you to think about in the beginning. All they tell you is to go into a career that makes money, but that doesn't really mean much because, well, everything potentially makes money. So you want to know that what you're getting into is going to be a good fit for you so that way you can last. Okay, so after you've asked those questions of yourself, now you kind of have an idea of who you are, which hopefully you do. Now you can go and you can research what careers actually exist. So for example, the particular website that I really like is Florida Choices. So I have the link up there that you can see, and it's flchoices.org. And so if you go there, you can see all the different career options. So I'm going to walk you through it a little bit so that way, because there's a lot of different buttons to click on. So if you follow along, then you'll know what to do. First thing that you want to look for is explore career pathways. And you can see that on the right-hand side of the screen. Underneath that, you're going to have a lot of different options. Essentially, they all get you to the same thing. What you're going to be doing on this website is shopping around for a career. Kind of like when you go on Amazon and you start looking at all these fancy things that you want to get. Eventually, you settle on something because it's what you're looking for. But until then, you like to look at the different ratings. You like to look at the different options that are out there, the different prices. This is kind of like what you're doing with your career before you've actually selected one. And so it's a really good time to play with it. So if you click on that, then you're going to see something pop up that says career clusters and concentrations. And again, this is at flchoices.org. And so you're going to find a cluster that fits you. What I talked about in the very beginning was figuring out who you are and what kind of stuff you like to do and what's a good fit for you. So now, knowing this about yourself, you want to look at the career clusters that are listed and pick one that fits that. So if I'm really interested in being outside and having a flexible schedule, then I'm going to look for a cluster that sounds like it can provide that. Or if I really like to be on my feet, I'm probably going to want to work in a field that does that and not work in a secretary type position where you'd be sitting a lot. So you want to find a cluster that fits you. Another thing that can help you determine what cluster is a good fit is by looking at what kind of classes you're good at. So if I'm naturally good at math and science, then I'm probably going to want to look in the medical field or architecture or even finance, something that's going to give you a lot of use out of your talents in math or science. So when you click on that, the next thing that pops up is a list of all the careers in that cluster. The really cool thing about this particular website is that it is driven by the state of Florida. So it is up to date and is based on real data that exists. So it's pretty accurate for the most part. It may have a little tiny delay, but for the most part, it's very, very accurate. So if you're curious what is happening in the state of Florida and what careers actually exist in the state of Florida, then you can look to this website for some ideas and for some real-time information. So for this particular example, I put up a picture of the health science career cluster because that's a pretty popular one here at Miami Dade. And so if I click on health science, then all the different careers come up below that, and so I can shop around. A lot of times parents or even your friends or even maybe you think I'm going to be in the medical field, so therefore I should be a doctor, or therefore I should be a nurse. And those are great options, and if you can do it and you have that passion, then that's a really good fit. But you don't necessarily have to be a doctor or a nurse. There's a lot of other people in the hospital or in the doctor's office that are also working in the health sciences career or in the medical field. So you can look at all the different options that are there, not just the big ones. And that's what this allows you to do. So if you click on, so for example, I picked a particular career, physician assistant, because this is one that I really like to discuss with my students so that way they can look at different options other than doctor or nurse. So for example, physician assistant, what you want to first find on the left-hand side are different tabs. And so that way, what is a physician assistant? I don't even know. Well, on there, you can see the different tabs. There's one that says what they do. This will tell you exactly what they do in the day-to-day activities. Like I can give you a really good description of a physician assistant. Well, they help physicians and they work in the medical field. But this website will tell you literally what they do. Like they file things, they're on their feet all day, they go and they manage this and they put this there or whatever. And so if you click on that, it will tell you exactly what to expect. Another thing that this website allows you to do is to take a skills test. So you check out physician assistant and you think, oh, this is a really good thing. I think I like it. It sounds like something I want to do. Is it a good fit? Well, I don't really know. I know a little bit about myself, but that's about it. You can go to this website and you can take a skills test, and it will tell you exactly what your talents are and then what the talents that are needed for the physician assistant position. So you can see if it matches up. So let's say that you don't like blood and you don't like being on your feet very much and you don't like math or science, but you really want to work in that particular career. If you take the skills test, it's going to show you on paper this may not be a good fit for you. So that's a really helpful thing. The next thing it's going to show you on the tabs that you see is what degrees are required. This is extremely important because a lot of times people will say, oh, I want to be whatever, and they look and then they realize, oh, that's 10 years of school. I don't know if I can handle that. You need to know that before you begin, because if you know what your outcome is, then you're a lot more likely to have the motivation to finish it. Or you're going to realize, I don't want to waste my time, so I'm just going to go into something that I can complete. So for example, for a physician assistant, you can actually get into that career with an associate's degree. And so that's only a few years, and it's still in the medical field, still doing the things that people typically like if they're interested in the medical field. And so that's what you really need to know. For example, I have my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. A lot of people that begin college that are interested in psychology, they'll say, oh, I want to be a psychologist and I want to do therapy. And they'll think that they have to go and be a psychologist with a PhD, which is really an honorable degree. However, that's not necessary in order to be a therapist. I have my bachelor's and then I also have my master's, and that's a 2-year program. And a lot of people need to know these sorts of things. Like, you can be what you want to be and you can make the money that you want to make, and you don't have to waste your time in programs that are just what everybody else expects of you. So this example that I have up on here for physician assistant is perfect for that, because you can work in the medical field but only have to go and get your associate's degree, which is pretty nice. The other thing that you're going to be interested in especially is how much do they make. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I want to be a therapist. It's touchy-feely, it feels good, it's in the field of psychology. And then they'll look at how much they make and they'll realize, oh, that's not very much, I can't pay the bills. And so then they'll start looking on to something else. For me, I did not look that up before I got that degree, and so I ended up with a degree that cannot pay the bills, and so thus I am in a different career. And so that's really important. If I had had this tool and if I had used it, then I would have known going into college that this may not be a good fit for me for the long run, for the stuff that I want to do with my life. So one thing that you are definitely interested in is the pay. And so on the left-hand side, those tabs that are listed, what do they do? What kind of skills are required? What degrees are required? You will see Money and Outlook. And under that tab, Money and Outlook, is where you can see how the pay is. Okay, so if we click on that, I have magnified it so you could see what you would see if you clicked on it. You can see the average annual wage, which is just across the entire state of Florida. What's the average pay for this position? You can see the entry annual wage, which is if you just graduated and you got your first job, how much would you make? So that's the average entry level for the state of Florida. And then you can see the experienced annual wage. So you've been working in this field for quite a bit of time. And so now you can build up about $20,000 extra dollars a year because of experience. So anyway, so what you're looking at are these different wages and whether or not it fits. So the reason why I put this particular career up is because a lot of my students will want to be a nurse and they'll want to be a doctor, but those are really competitive programs and it takes a very long time to do that. And sometimes they don't really want to spend that much time, or the chances of them getting into the program is very, very low simply because it's so competitive. So I point to something like this where if you look, the experienced annual wage is over $100,000 and you're a physician assistant. That's fantastic. And all you need is an associate's degree. So if you can look at that, like I'm putting in 2.5, maybe 3 years of education, and I'm getting out over $100,000 a year, that's fantastic. And that's still in the medical field, still what I want to do. The other thing that this tab allows you to do is to look at the market for the career. You can have a fantastic career that you're going into that makes over $200,000 a year, but if there's only 4 positions in the state of Florida, that may not be a good career to go into, because the people that are in those positions probably like it like that and they don't want to quit. So you're not going to have any openings or opportunity to enter that career path. So what you want to look at is the market for the career, and this tab will show you that. You want to know, is there a demand? Meaning, is it growing? And this tab will also show you that. It will show you how many positions in the state of Florida there are and then the growth rate. So if it's about 11% growth rate, that's not a very good growth rate. That's about on par with almost everything in the country as far as the economy. But if it's a 25% growth rate, well, that's fantastic. And that means that a lot of new positions are opening up. So it's all a really good career for you to go into, especially if it's making money. And then lastly is the pay okay, which obviously we've talked about. That's something that's extremely important that you need to know about before you select your career. Okay, so I can see that we have a lovely group watching. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you. Thank you for your questions. I can see them. So if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them up. That will be entertaining for me to read. Okay, the next section that I am looking at and I have put up for you is the educational component. So I already mentioned that you can see what's required, and this is really important that you understand it when you're picking a career. So I clicked on the tab for you and I have it up so that way you can see what it looks like, and it will give you a basic description of the kind of degree that you need, the kind of licensing if that is necessary, and then the different associations that may exist that you can draw upon for resources or more information. So for example, for marriage and family therapy, what my degree is in, I need to get a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and then I have to do 2 years of an internship, which is likely unpaid. And then after I accrue all these hours and I have supervision from someone that actually is licensed, then I have to sit for a licensing exam. And if I pass the exam, then I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. But if I don't, well, then I'm not. And that's very common for a lot of professional degrees. And so that's something that you want to look into also. Like if I had looked into that before I got into my program, then I would have known, oh, there's 2 years after I graduate where I'm probably not going to make enough money to pay the rent. So I'm probably going to have to do something else on the side in order to make money. And if I'm okay with that, then it feels good going into it. But if I'm not okay with that, well, then I have this fancy degree, but I can't do anything with it because I can't fulfill the requirements. These are very important things for you to know from the very, very beginning so you don't waste your time. So that's what this slide is showing you, all the educational requirements. The other thing, I talked about the requirements for the career and how that can impact whether or not you want to do that and whether or not it's a good fit for you. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is, do you want to be in school that long? A lot of my students will come in and they'll say, I want to be a doctor. That's what you're supposed to be when you go into the medical field. And so I say, okay, let's look at the requirements. And I show them all the prerequisites to getting into their major at the university level, and then all the requirements at the university level to get into medical school, and then all of the requirements for that, and then your residency and all that stuff that you do after you graduate medical school. And then I ask them, does that sound like something you can do for 8 to 10 years? And if it is, then fantastic. But if not, they really need to either reconsider their goals in life or they can adjust their expectations of education. And so you really should begin college with your end result in mind, so that way you're not disappointed along the way and you make really good decisions. Oops. And then, do you know where you will go for each degree? That's another thing that you really want to pay attention to. If you know where you want to go, then you can adjust your degree here at Miami Dade College to fulfill the requirements for that school that you're applying to. So for example, if I want to go to Harvard Medical School, well, I would want to know what they want from me in order for me to be admitted. So I'm going to start doing that now, so that way I don't apply and they write back to me and say, I'm sorry, we cannot admit you, you haven't fulfilled our requirements. So I'm going to make sure that I've done everything that I need to do in order to be admitted. And so by knowing what schools you want to go to, that's very helpful, and it helps guide you here because it begins now. If you're here just taking basket weaving classes or some music appreciation class on top of another humanities class on top of all these different languages. I'm sure that's a lot of fun, and I believe in college being fun, but at the same time, by the time you graduate, you're not going to have met any of the requirements for the schools that you want to go to further your education, and so you're going to have to start all over in a sense, and your degree won't necessarily do much for you. So it's important that you know this right away from the get-go so you're not wasting your time or money. The other thing that you need to know when you're doing this is how long you'll be in school, because that really impacts your financial aid. If you're using financial aid, you're given only so many full-time semesters of financial aid, and if you're wasting it on basket weaving and music appreciation, well, then you're going to have to pay out of pocket for the more legitimate classes that come later. So you want to know everything from the very beginning if that's possible, so that way you can anticipate using your financial aid, you can anticipate each semester that you're going to be in and what to do. That's one of the biggest problems that we have as advisors, is that a lot of students don't know what they want out of life, and that's fine. I feel like it's kind of ridiculous that you're expected to be determining your entire life at the age of 18. That's silly. I feel like I still don't know what I want, and I've been graduated for many, many years. So that's very, very normal. But if you go into it with an idea of everything that you're interested in and all the stuff that is required for it, it helps you make better decisions, and it helps you use your time wisely rather than wasting it, which a lot of people end up doing with their degrees, and they go back to school because they realize, oh, I didn't do what I should have done. So if you go in informed, then you're not wasting your time or your financial aid. Okay, so now you've looked at a little bit, or I've talked about Florida choices and how that can help you pick a career. So let's say you found something that you really, really like and you're coming to Miami Dade College. You can look at our programs that we have and compare that list of programs with the career that you want. So I put the link up here for our program list. It's at the Miami Dade website, mdc.edu. It's on the main page, and if you click on academic programs and then you look at the ones that are for credit versus just, I'm coming in to learn technical skills, you want an actually credited program. You can see a list of all the programs that we have to offer, and then you can see which one is aligned best with the career that you want. If you are interested in something that requires a bachelor's degree, or if you're interested in something that requires a master's degree or a doctorate of some sort, then it would be better if you picked something that's an associate in arts or an AA. That's going to set you up with the first 2 years of your 4-year degree, and it will transfer pretty smoothly in the state of Florida. There's a really good agreement between the community colleges, and the universities here in the state of Florida, where if you get your AA, then you can transfer into a 4-year institution pretty seamlessly. So if you are interested in furthering your education, well, those are really good programs to take a look at. If you are not and you want to get an associate's in science, is what they're called, another type of associate's degree, so that way you come in, you take your schooling, and then within 2 to 3 years you're out and working and making money, then you can look at our list of career option or pathways there as well. So that is more designed for people that are interested in there's a lot of medically related AS degrees, and that's usually what students want to do. They don't want to waste their time in a lot of extra schooling. They just want to get into the field. And if you were here earlier in my presentation, then you are aware that a physician assistant can become a physician assistant with an AS degree. And then make over $100,000 just with that. They don't have to get a bunch of fancy degrees behind their name just to make a lot of money and change a lot of lives, I guess, if they're doing a good job. So that's something that you really want to consider, and you want to match up. And in our particular programs, the AS degree is extremely important that you pick the right one, because that is it. That's you're in and you're out, and you want to make sure you have the right one to go into the field that you're interested in. For the AA degree, it's not as important that you pick the right one, because they all do essentially the same thing. So you have a little bit of flexibility. You have a few semesters where you can be like, oh, I don't know what I want, and we can talk about it and we can work it out. And so what we'll focus on is all of your elective credits and making sure that they fulfill requirements for many different programs that you may be interested in. And then if I got an AA, let's say in criminology, but I met all the prerequisites for medicine, they wouldn't care what the AA says. And so that's something that you and me would talk about while we're in an advising session, just to make sure that you are in the right program and you understand your requirements and what you're doing. But the first thing that you really should do that would help me and help you and help everybody involved with your college experience is research the career that you want to go into. And so that is why I put this entire presentation, I put all the Florida choices, links, and information. So I put it back up there so you can see it in case if you didn't write it down earlier. It's flchoices.org. Play around with it. Shop around for some kind of career. Find something that sounds good to you, that's realistic, that's something that you are capable of, and that sounds fun. So that way you're not wasting your time in college or at work. And then come in ready to pick classes that are actually useful for you, because that's really important. All right, so if you have any questions, then you can type them in the question box, but I do not see any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. So my name again is Marquis Matson. I am the Senior Academic Advisor, one of two, at the Hialeah campus at Miami Dade College. So if you have any questions, you can always find me here or find me online somehow in advising and shoot me an email. All right. Thank you so much, my beautiful, lovely audience. I will talk to you soon.